We are all, to a very great extent, the people that our parents made us. And in that respect, millennials and Gen Z, you have gotten a truly raw deal because you were raised by the generation that was without a doubt the worst parents in modern history, the boomers, and to some extent their offspring in Gen X. We've all heard the stories, and in many cases, that's just what they are, is stories about young people not having as much opportunity as their parents did. Now, there have been better times in terms of opportunity for young people, but certainly things are better now than, say, the 1970s, where rampant inflation, gas lines, and stagnating wages were much more punishing than they are today. Or during the Great Recession. No, what has really changed is what expectations are now versus what they were in the past. In the past, it was never contemplated, ever, that when you were young, you would have a lifestyle anywhere near what your parents currently enjoyed. It would take decades of toil to attain that. You'd live in a crummy apartment, you would have a crummy car, you would go out to eat and go on vacations, rarely, if at all. This was just the reality of being young in the past. And it is really the only way that financial progress works. The expectations now are through the roof. People expect to own a house when they're barely out of college. They expect to travel. They expect to dine at expensive places. The expectations they're through the roof. Whose fault is that? Certainly not the fault of the people with the expectations. The expectations had to come from somewhere. It's the fault of the self-absorbed, emotionally disconnected boomers who failed to connect their children with reality, financial or otherwise. They fail to teach you you're not entitled to have a job you love. You're only entitled to try to make that happen. And the vast majority of people don't succeed in doing this, and that is reality, and that is life. The most reasonable case scenario is a job that you like some of the time, that provides for your family, and allows you to become a functioning member of society. There was a time when people could get fulfillment from this, a lot of fulfillment. The boomers have done a horrible job of instilling financial responsibility in their children. Horrible. They've taught you that luxuries are necessities, that people should be paid based on how much they want to make instead of how much value they're providing to an employer. They've taught you that it's perfectly fine to have no grit, zero ability to grind it out in pursuit of a long-term goal. They failed to teach you that you don't stop doing something just because you get tired of it. And it only gets worse if you're a white man in this generation. You've been taught that your most basic instincts are evil, misogynistic, and racist. You've been subject to overt demands that you become more feminine, with simultaneously implied demands that you be a, quote, high-value man who makes a lot of money and is perceived as an alpha. Good luck reconciling this cognitive dissonance. Now, this level of dysfunction is something that very few young men are able to sort through, and it's not hard to understand why. But of all the awful parenting decisions the boomers made, probably the worst one is this. They fail to inform you, to instruct you, and to get you to accept, emotionally and intellectually, that financial success, happiness, and a life well lived cannot happen for almost everybody without a fair amount of pain, without a good deal of drudgery, and without the ability to push through those things to get your life where you want it to be. The only advice that I can offer, and it's definitely a long shot, is that for those few of you who are having children, try your very best not to suck as much as your parents did. Try to raise your kids in a way that recognizes their core strengths and encourages them to use those strengths in a productive and positive way, in a way that's connected to actual life on planet Earth, which is that hard work and deferred gratification are not qualities that only work for the Puritans. They're not antiquated notions that are no longer relevant. They provide a fundamental formula for a successful life. Only when we teach these kinds of values will we be producing generations that actually have it better than their parents.